Welcome back to the Bitcoin Zodiac. I hope that you are amazing. Happy full moon in Capricorn. We have got a lot to cover in this episode. It's a lot of exciting, interesting, and somewhat ominous transits that we'll be covering today. But I don't know about you, but for me, I feel like the astrology this year has been relentless, and we're not getting a breather anytime soon. So let's get stuck into it. So we have this full moon in Capricorn. Um, and for those that are new here, this occurs when the moon is in Capricorn and it opposes the sun, which is in Cancer. So this axis governs structure versus emotion, ambition versus nurturing, and public responsibility versus private needs. So Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the planet of discipline, boundaries, responsibility, and time. And the moon sort of governs emotions, and they're filtered through the lens of stoicism, pragmatism, and long-term vision. So under this full moon, emotional insights come through maturity, delayed gratification, and serious introspection. So it's a really good time to be reviewing your long-term goals, commitments in career or family, and also kind of be meditating on where you sacrificed emotional needs for external success. So with the sun in Cancer opposite the moon, Cancer is the moon's home sign. So it's emotional, sensitive, protective, and very family focused. So this opposition asks, how do I balance outer success, the outer success of Capricorn, and the inner emotional fulfillment of Cancer? So what structures support or even suppress your emotional well-being? What are you doing too much alone? And also areas where you've outgrown old coping mechanisms rooted in over-responsibility. So it's really a time to release unnecessary emotional or professional weight. So some personal kind of reflection questions are really about, where am I being too hard on myself? What old emotional patterns no longer serve my highest ambitions? And how can I create emotional safety and external stability? So it's a really good time to be journaling on what you're ready to release, especially burdens around duty or guilt or proving your worth. And you can do some Saturn-focused rituals around boundaries, protection, and pruning. And also it's a good time to make some career evaluations. Like, is your current path aligned with your authentic self? So this full moon in Capricorn offers a cosmic checkpoint. It's a time to honor your progress and to release emotional weights tied to identity through work or through status. So it's a time to recommit to your goals that actually support both success and soul. And what does this full moon have in store for Bitcoin? It is in Bitcoin's sun sign, so it's Bitcoin's full moon. And so in financial astrology, full moons will often print a local bottom. So there may be some volatility, and it also reveals inner investor sentiment in its extreme. So either fear or euphoria. I'm expecting this to probably bring more euphoria than fear, to be honest, but we will walk through that later as well. So Bitcoin's birth is we log that on January the 3rd, 2009 at 6:15 p.m. GMT. And that's when the Genesis block was mined. So it gives it a Capricorn sun. So this full moon lands at 18 degrees Capricorn, directly activating Bitcoin's natal sun. And this is really significant. So because Capricorn rules long-term structures, financial institutions, discipline, and cycles of rise, fall, and rebuild. So the moon in Capricorn opposing the sun in Cancer can create this tension between emotional market reactions and long-term strategic trends. So it's particularly important for Bitcoin, which is often viewed as both a speculative asset and also a long-term store of value. So We can expect some heightened volatility as we do with every full moon. And they tend to amplify emotions. And in Capricorn, this can kind of swing between fear of failure and hyper focus on control or legacy. So investors may overreact to news or economic data, especially as it relates to regulations, central banks, or institutional moves. So Capricorn's full moon is really a reality check. It's, as I said, it's ruled by Saturn, which is the planet of limits, responsibility, and karma. So this full moon can bring accountability in financial markets and really a reevaluation of value. So is Bitcoin still worth it long term? Yes, I would say yes. In the context of inflated altcoins or meme coins and things like that, expect some consolidation or decline because Capricorn really favors seriousness over speculative. So, yeah, it's definitely more aligned for Bitcoin expansion than like highly speculative altcoins. And because this full moon activates Bitcoin's natal sun, we can expect a significant price move within 3 days before or after the full moon and a test of long-term highs. So highs or lows, but I'm expecting it to retest the highs. And there's an increased focus on Bitcoin's institutional role and just the part that it's playing in the global financial system. So this full moon encourages a grounded and mature mindset. So build a solid foundation of habits backed by education and research. So revisit your long-term vision for your participation in Bitcoin. Set boundaries with risk. Capricorn tends to teach us restraint and discipline. So use this time to prune, refocus, and build smarter. It's not a time to panic or overextend. This full moon in Capricorn is deeply karmic for Bitcoin, illuminating its core identity, purpose, and societal role. As a market, we're being asked, are we building a sustainable future with Bitcoin? Are we aligned to Bitcoin's core values or merely just chasing quick highs? So let this be a moment to realign with your deeper values and long-term vision. So on July the 7th, we had Uranus enter Gemini. So it's a generational planet that has shifted signs. And so this is a really big deal. These kind of moves affect an entire generation. And this is a big one. This is a big one. It will be there until 2033. So Uranus is the planet of disruption, revolution, innovation, and decentralization. And Gemini is the sign of communication and technology, networks, and duality. So Uranus enters Gemini, as I said, on the 7th of July, and it will stay there till 2033 with some retrogrades and re-entries. So it will retrograde back into Taurus briefly in late 2025, and then it will settle into Gemini long-term in the spring of 2026. So as I said, this is a generational transit. And for this one in particular, it's a little ominous. I'm not going to lie. The last time Uranus was in Gemini was 1941 to 1949, and this was the World War II era. The time before that was 1858 to 1866, which was the American Civil War. And the time before that, it was from 1774 to 1782. And this was the American Revolutionary War. So not a particularly great sign for world peace, which is really disturbing. But sometimes we have to accept that things need to be destroyed, or in this case, I would say destroy themselves to be able to clear space for the new to emerge. So even though, as I said, it is an ominous sign, like it's not great to, it's highly unlikely that we won't see a period of war during this transit. But also on the brighter side, The World War II era was a period that saw global communications revolutions. So the rise of computing and code breaking and early internet-like military tech. So we also at that time saw the birth of the ENAC computer, code breaking efforts like Bletchley Park, and we also saw the creation of the IMF and Bretton Woods financial system, and a massive expansion of mass media and communication infrastructures. So today's echo of that past period, we can kind of expect to witness the breakdown of old financial systems, centralized fiat and traditional banking, and the birth of new decentralized digital financial infrastructure with Bitcoin at its core. So in financial astrology, Uranus is highly tied to market stocks, disruption and decentralization, and Gemini is tied to information, trading, media, systems, and currency flow. So the main themes of this transit are rapid technological disruption in finance and communication industries. So even though that sounds kind of scary, this is exactly what we expect going forward as Bitcoiners. And the decentralization of data, currency, and markets, an explosion of AI, blockchain, and quantum computing integration into finance, volatility and unpredictability in sectors that are tied to tech, social media, digital assets, and communications platforms, and then the expansion of new forms of currency or trade. So this actually, even though it's kind of scary for the world, this could potentially be removing things, destroying things to create space for Bitcoin, basically, a Bitcoin standard. I'm not saying that by 2033 we'll be on a Bitcoin standard, but I think that this period is actually going to see a vast acceleration towards that. So Uranus rules decentralized systems, freedom from institutions, and futuristic tech. So it has this strong resonance with Bitcoin's ethos. In Gemini, Uranus may supercharge Bitcoin's evolution as a payment network and communication protocol, not just a store of value. I'm briefly interrupting this episode to speak to you about one of our partners, Ritual Supplements, and in particular, Ritual Stress Relief. It's the first of its kind supplement powered by Bioseries technology. Unlike typical stress supplements that fade, Ritual's dual action formula gives you instant calm followed by all-day support. It works with your body's natural cortisol rhythm, helping you respond instead of react, ground instead of spiral. Its unique extended release blend delivers nature's calming adaptogens like ashwagandha and lemon balm when your body actually needs them. That means no crash, no fog, just clarity, focus, and nervous system balance. It's a sigh of relief that keeps going. So if you have spikes in your stress levels or are simply feeling dysregulated, give Ritual Stress Relief a try. Click on the link in the description box to find your perfect daily ritual. Okay, now that we found our Zen, let's get back to the show. We expect breakthroughs in speed, scaling, and cross-border use. So the Lightning Network, Layer 2 solutions, off-chain scaling technologies, I expect to explode in adoption. So Bitcoin could begin functioning more like a monetary communication network. We will expect also some volatility, speculative mania. So Gemini's duality and Uranus's instability equals high market volatility and some definite mood swings. We're talking over a 7-year period though. So so bear that in mind. Retail investors may be drawn in by hype, tech, or ideological narratives, leading to extremes in sentiments like manias or flash crashes. Uranus loves surprise moves, so definitely be ready for unpredictable price spikes and drops, or just unpredictability in general. Like really expect the unexpected when Uranus is involved. There's also the possibility of peer-to-peer communities and economies growing. So things like tipping, micropayments, and censorship-resistant content monetization, like you see on Nostr. And it's sort of the end of dogmatic investing. Like Gemini Uranus require mental flexibility and quick adaptation. So you want to stay adaptable. This wave of Uranus energy rewards those who are ahead of the curve. Listen and learn consistently. So Gemini craves data. So study emerging tech, study Bitcoin, study governance, and definitely study macroeconomic shifts and be watching for shifts in the current financial system. So also, this is a really good time to basically begin to decentralize your whole life. So not just finance, but different income streams, data control, and mobility. And so this Uranus in Gemini marks the acceleration of the digital monetary evolution. So for Bitcoin, this is an era of maturation as a global monetary protocol, deep integration into technology infrastructure, and just rapid adoption, resistance, regulation, and reinvention. So Bitcoin is likely to be at the center of the financial chaos, kind of the calm in the midst of the storm. And those who prepare early with education, infrastructure, and disciplined investing really are the ones who stand to benefit most from the creative destruction of Uranus. So on the 13th of July, Saturn retrogrades at 1 degree in Aries. And this is the first time Saturn retrograde has occurred in Aries since the late 1990s. So from there, Saturn will eventually station direct at 25 degrees Aries, 25 degrees of Pisces, and that will happen on the 27th of November. And this will be the last time Saturn will enter Pisces, and there'll only be a few more months left of that transit. So for those of you that are new here, what is Saturn retrograde? Well, basically, Saturn rules discipline, structure, authority, and regulations, long-term investment, responsibility, and boundaries. And when Saturn goes retrograde, it invites us to review our structures and our commitments, a reassessment of financial rules, market systems, and strategies. And that's like collectively, globally. And there also could be some delays or karmic consequences for poorly built foundations, bond market, banking. So I'm just kidding, but maybe I'm not kidding. So that's the kind of thing we want to like look out for and expect during this transit. So what does Aries represent? It's the first sign of the zodiac, and it signifies initiative, impulses, risk-taking, and independence. It's a cardinal fire sign, and it's assertive, bold, and entrepreneurial. So symbolically, it's tied to self, pioneering markets, and rapid decision-making. So when Saturn retrogrades in Aries, we are asked to slow down and rethink impulsive decisions. And there's this tension between the go fast Aries energy and the go slow Saturn discipline. So this transit occurs at the very beginning of the zodiac at 1 degree, the first sign of the zodiac. So it's a critical point of new beginnings. Yet Saturn is retrograding and pulling backwards. So this creates this kind of cosmic contradiction between action and restriction. So market participants are kind of forced to pause, to reevaluate, to restructure their strategies. And suddenly bullish momentum may stall or reverse as Saturn kind of demands caution and accountability. So it's particularly relevant for new projects, like maybe new low cap altcoins or startup capital, or like market-wide kind of FOMO trends. I'd also probably add in there this kind of like new super hypey trend of Bitcoin reserve companies. So that also is likely to be affected in this transit. So Bitcoin's bullish drive may kind of hesitate at key resistance levels. We may see some delays in regulatory decisions or like macroeconomic policies that may cause some stagnation or uncertainty. Short-term bullish enthusiasm is probably going to be tested during this time. So avoid impulsive entries, build a measured and disciplined accumulation strategy, and you'll be fine. And because Saturn also governs governments, regulation, and institutional structures, in retrograde, there may be some revisions to Bitcoin-related laws or regulatory setbacks or compliance crackdowns. So institutions may hesitate to deploy capital or pause adoption plans. Public trust in systems like banks or even exchanges, maybe even stable coins, could also be challenged and tested at this time. So watch out for like SEC rulings, CBDC discussions, and those sorts of things. This is also a time to rebuild from the ground up. So Saturn at 1 degree of Aries really emphasizes a rebuilding of identity around independence and sovereignty, themes that are so core to Bitcoin. So a need to re-examine foundational beliefs around decentralization, money, and risk. So Bitcoiners may go through a phase of quiet consolidation and like inward sort of restructuring rather than external action. So expect a time of reduced volatility and focus on fundamentals and long-term value. This transit also is a time where delayed gratification is rewarded. So Saturn is a planet of earned rewards. So, but only through hard work, patience, and responsibility. So during this retrograde, short-term trades may underperform and long-term strategic accumulation will probably prove more fruitful. So the market will reward discipline over emotion. So if Bitcoin price dips or trades sideways for ages, this may be a time to steadily accumulate. It's not a time to panic. So avoid overtrading, emotionally decision buys, or high leverage speculation. And again, this is where I think we're going to see some stagnation or some issues start to come to light around these Bitcoin reserve companies. So it's really a time to align with authentic financial independence and not just reactive speculation. Bitcoin represents sovereignty, and Saturn in Aries retrograde demands that sovereignty be earned through mature decision-making, not adrenaline-fueled trades. So use this time to refocus why you're in Bitcoin, why you're in the market, solidify your systems, and play the long game. This retrograde is about becoming a disciplined warrior, not a gambler chasing dopamine. So next we have a transiting North Node sextile Bitcoin's natal Uranus, and we'll see this on the 15th of July and also again on the 21st of July. So the North Node represents collective destiny, growth, and the future. And Uranus, as we discussed earlier, symbolizes technology, disruption, innovation, and freedom. It literally rules Bitcoin. So a sextile is a 60-degree angle in astrology, and it's supportive, opportunistic, and it brings smooth integration of energies. So a transiting North Node sextile Bitcoin's natal Uranus signals this kind of gateway moment where the collective future of the North Node aligns with Bitcoin's inherent disruptive, decentralized technology of Uranus. It's not a shock transit, but rather a supportive window for innovation, adoption, and future-aligned evolution. So this aspect really opens the doors to technological upgrades, institutional or mainstream acceptance, emerging use cases aligned with freedom, decentralization, and future thinking, and a favorable like macro social or legal narratives. So this is really an aspect where Destiny meets disruption. The North Node sextiling Uranus activates Bitcoin's role in humanity's financial future. So this could correlate with events like countries adopting Bitcoin for trade or reserves, major tech integrations, and financial infrastructure like banks or payment systems. So like maybe they're integrating and adding Bitcoin rails. So Bitcoin is stepping closer to mainstream destiny, not as a fringe asset, but as a future forward financial pillar. So we can expect to see breakthroughs without volatility. So unlike squares or oppositions, sextiles don't trigger chaos, they ease the way. So new Bitcoin utilities may emerge, like quite quietly but powerfully. And the market response may be optimistic, but not euphoric. It's like steady gains or strong consolidation. So price movement may be steady or like poised for a breakout, but watch for slow, sustainable trend changes and like adoption trend changes rather than hype-driven price spikes. The North Node also reflects societal hunger for evolution, and this sextile suggests that people are ready to adopt digital sovereignty tools. So regulators and institutions may begin warming up to Bitcoin, or at least stop resisting it. So this younger generation's drive for demand for digital native value systems will also be key in this aspect. So Bitcoin may be supported by macro trends such as AI monetization, censorship resistance, and programmable payments. You really want to think long term. Again, I think that's a theme of this video, and because this is really a destiny transit. So really be kind of like building and accumulating with a minimum of a 5-year vision. So also follow the flow. Like sextiles ask you to stay alert for easy wins, like doors opening, quiet green lights, and stay curious. Explore how Bitcoin can interface with future tech, social systems, and macro trends. We can also watch out for a pivot moment in how Bitcoin is viewed by mainstream forces, like as a solution now, not a threat. Signs of integration into collective systems like tech, trade, and payments, and it's a favorable time to invest in Bitcoin's long-term vision. So next up, we have the most famous and most feared retrograde of them all. That's right, we have a Mercury retrograde, and this time it's in Leo, and it will be from July the 17th to August the 11th. And Mercury, as we've already discussed, rules communication, technology, contracts, data, and market information. So for those that are new here, when Mercury enters retrograde, it appears to be moving backwards in the sky. So symbolically, it brings miscommunication, delays, reversals, and reviews. So particularly in the areas that Mercury governs. Now, Leo is my rising sign, and it is bold, expressive, creative, and sometimes ego-driven. So connected to leadership, it's also connected to leadership, performance, speculation, and drama. It's a fixed fire sign, meaning it's prone to stubborn behavior and high visibility. So when Mercury retrogrades in Leo, the focus turns to public perception, big personalities like influencers, CEOs, and public figures, speculative assets and risk-taking behavior, and just narratives, particularly in the spotlight or on the global stage. So what we're really dealing with during this retrograde is really hype versus substance. Leo loves drama and attention, and during this retrograde, markets may overreact to flashy headlines or celebrity opinions. So Bitcoin and other assets may see price swings due to rumors, hype cycles, or emotionally charged commentary. Misinformation or misinterpretation of on-chain data, regulatory news, or executive statements could lead to short-term volatility as well. So don't act on unverified hype during this time. Headlines can absolutely be misleading. And with every Mercury retrograde, we can kind of see some tech glitches, so maybe some technical failures or communications errors. Mercury retrograde notoriously messes with technology, exchanges, wallets, and trading platforms. So expect network congestion, delays in trade executions, or API or data feed glitches. This is totally normal during Mercury retrograde, so don't allow it to destabilize you or frustrate you. So you can also see wallet errors, seed phrase mistakes, and security lapses. They're more likely during this time, especially on like mobile devices or third-party platforms. So just really be hyper aware of what you're doing, like double check wallet transactions and withdrawal addresses. Avoid onboarding new tech unless it's absolutely necessary at this time. We could also see some price reversals and retests. So retrogrades are famous for retracing past decisions, including market moves. So Bitcoin may revisit previous support or resistance levels as traders sort of rethink or reevaluate positions. And we could also see some false breakouts or fake outs. They're really common also during this time. So expect some uncertainty or confusion in trend direction. Don't chase moves, just wait for confirmation and just be wary of breakout traps. Because this particular Mercury retrograde is in Leo, we could expect some ego-driven market moves. So Leo is about pride and recognition. So during this time, public figures like influencers, CEOs, or large holders may make ego-based decisions, announcing large sales, making statements on Twitter, and all of these kind of things. A lot of drama around personalities can move markets irrationally. So just be on the watch for like news involving prominent figures, especially if it seems to be emotionally charged. Mercury retrogrades in Leo reward those who humble themselves, step out of pride, and adopt clarity over performance. So you really want to just detach from your ego during this time, focus on authenticity over performance, and really ask yourself, am I investing to be seen, to be noted, to be known, or am I here to build sovereignty? So then again, am I involved in Bitcoin to be rich or truly wealthy? Like those are the questions that you need to ask yourself during these retrogrades. So practice discipline and discernment in a time where you can expect a lot of market noise. So again, Mercury retrograde in Leo, kind of it's ego plus drama plus speculation plus tech glitches plus misunderstandings. God, that sounds awful, right? But it's a really powerful time for you to use this transit to really reassess your exposure and your risk and clarify your communication style. Stay calm amid the narrative noise. I'm pausing this episode for just a moment to share with you one of our partners, the Sculpt Society. I'm obsessed with TSS, created by celebrity trainer Megan Roop. It's not just another fitness app, it's the most fun you'll ever have working out. You'll find sculpt, strength, and dance cardio all in one super accessible method that actually works. Whether you have 10 minutes or 50, want low impact sculpting or full body dance cardio, the Sculpt Society has you covered. Inside the app, you'll find over 900 on-demand workouts and weekly live classes, plus curated programs that meet you wherever you are, beginner, advanced, or even pre or postnatal. There's no complicated choreography, no guilt, just movement that makes you feel confident and strong in your own skin. You can stream from any device, anywhere in the world, and even download classes to work out offline. It doesn't matter whether you're in your living room or in a hotel room. So if you've been waiting for a sign to get back into your body and feel good, this is it. Click on the link in the description box and join the Sculpt Society to start your 7-day free trial today. You'll feel the difference after just one class. Let's get back into the episode. Our next aspect is on July 20th, and that is where Mars conjoins the South Node. And so this is a macro aspect. So it's not just here to affect Bitcoin, it will affect the global markets. And I actually think it will be more to do with the global markets rather than Bitcoin, but Bitcoin will also be affected too. So Mars governs impulses, strategy, warfare, and assertion in financial astrology. So it can really drive market momentum or trigger volatile swings. So often it's linked to greed, fear, or sudden price moves. And then we have the South Node, which represents past patterns, habits, and comfort zones that are no longer serving progress. So when a planet conjoins it, its qualities are drained, redirected, or karmically resolved. So when it's in Virgo, Virgo is an earth sign that's ruled by Mercury and associated with data, efficiency, and control. So in financial astrology, it governs technological infrastructure, trading algorithms, and back-end systems. So really what we're looking at here is the burnout of over-controlled strategies and systems. So Mars here activates old methods of risk control, such as like algorithmic trading or excessive backtesting or micromanagement, or just really the way that banks function and trade. So these strategies are no longer going to yield results. So they may see algos fail, technical indicators lose reliability, or over-analysis just leading to poor decisions. So I actually think this one could also really impact the bond market. So just keep a close eye on what the bond market is doing as well. So anyone clinging to outdated methods may face losses during this time. This market favors organic, intuitive, and creative strategies over hyper rationalization. We'll also likely see an aggression towards the past or institutional systems. So Mars on the South Node is like aggressive severing of karmic ties. So this can manifest as protests or backlashes against regulatory bodies. I feel like we've seen them nonstop all throughout the world this year. And a real public dissatisfaction with legacy financial systems. Could also see a sudden rejection of old narratives and public figures that we previously trusted. Where does Bitcoin sort of play into this? Bitcoin may be caught in the battle between tradition and innovation. And then the market will also purge dead weight. Like we'll also I think this is more to do with like other crypto, but we're going to see a huge purge of dead weight tokens. And maybe even a rejection of former industry leaders and public figures. So we may see some downward pressure and drained volatility. Mars's vitality is really weakened at the South Node, so it often results in like a lack of decisive market moves, confusion in direction, and suppressed volume and false breakouts. So expect maybe a range-bound kind of choppy behavior at this time for Bitcoin, and maybe some short-term pullbacks with lower volatility and just kind of a sense of exhaustion in the market. So this aspect is really a karmic rebalancing, a war against perfectionism. So Virgo rules perfectionist systems. And when Mars hits the South Node here, we will see a collective karmic reset around trying to perfect outcomes. So the market may punish overconfident or rigid participants and reward adaptability. So this is a cosmic detox, basically. And so it's let go of what is no longer working, especially methods that are rooted in fear, perfectionism, or the past. And the lesson of this transit is that sometimes the best move is no move at all. So read, real strength really lies in knowing where to stand still, observe, and prepare for your next move. And the final aspect that we're going to talk about tonight is on the 21st of July, transiting Pluto is square Bitcoin's natal sun. So Pluto represents deep transformation, power struggles, shadow revelations, destruction, and ultimately rebirth. So it governs hidden forces, control dynamics, and systemic evolution. And then Bitcoin's natal sun is in Capricorn, and it represents its core identity as a structured, decentralized system driven by sovereignty, discipline, and status within institutional finance. So this aspect is a square aspect, and it's at 90 degrees, and it brings tension, friction, and crises. So a square creates a conflict that demands action. It brings disruption, struggle, and growth through pressure. So Pluto squaring the sun, Bitcoin sun, brings a battle for control and survival, often through power plays, manipulation, and systemic upheaval. We can expect, like, do I think that this is an existential aspect for Bitcoin? No, I don't. But I think we will see power struggles around identity. Bitcoin as a decentralized asset may come under some intense scrutiny or attack from centralized powers, which is represented by Pluto. So there may be attempts to regulate, restrict, or own Bitcoin's narrative or identity. And I think we could see some, maybe stricter rules around, like you can't really regulate Bitcoin itself, but governments can attempt to regulate how its citizens interact with Bitcoin. So we may see a couple of things coming up there, especially as we're beginning to come into the CBDC rollout time for Europe. And we will see what happens with that CBDC. Like, let's see if it even works, and let's see if it's adopted. I'm sure when it is first released, it'll be sold as some miraculous thing, and it won't be until later on that we can see like the control elements of CBDCs come through. So just be really aware of that and those kind of narratives. So this battle is really ideological. So Bitcoin representing freedom versus control, which is the Pluto element. So expect government crackdowns, shadow operations, seeding FUD or media manipulation, fake news, and also maybe legal rulings that impact market confidence. So this aspect is really about a systemic uncovering and shadow work. So Pluto brings secrets into the light. So any scandals or revelations, so maybe affecting exchanges or institutions or blockchain technology, or like Bitcoin reserve companies, this whole hype phase of these Bitcoin reserve companies makes me super uncomfortable. I actually personally think that they will be the trigger for the next bear market. The unwind on this is going to be, quite substantial, I think. I don't think it's there yet. And like, I don't think that all of these Bitcoin reserve companies are created equally. Like, I'm not really talking about MicroStrategy or even MetaPlanet in Japan, but these kind of copycat versions that have been released later, I can absolutely see them overextending themselves and then sort of triggering a cascade kind of selling. So yeah, I can definitely see something like that happening in the future. There may be some kind of scandals or revelations that come to light during this time. There may also be price shocks from behind the scenes moves by like whales or regulators or institutions. So just keep an eye on exchange vulnerabilities, potential black swan events, like exchange closures or coordinated attacks, and a shift in institutional holdings or narratives. So this aspect is really a death and rebirth of market confidence. So Pluto destroys what no longer serves. So this aspect sounds kind of negative, but it's all part of the process of growth and evolution. Like, we have to go through these phases where we clear out the crap, basically. So if the market has unrealistic narratives or inflated hype, this square can really burn them to the ground. However, this is a purification, a sanctification process. So what emerges post Pluto is always stronger, leaner, and more sovereign. So in the short term, we could expect some dips or some volatility and some fear in the market. But in the long term, this is an evolutionary leap in Bitcoin's role in the financial system. So when Pluto squares the sun, which is, it's like a forced ego death. So this applies to Bitcoin's collective identity, investor beliefs, and a global perception of money and power in general. So this transit marks a purge of delusions and distortions and really clearing the way for a more mature financial consciousness. So it may feel pretty dark, but it's actually alchemical. So the transiting Pluto square Bitcoin's natal sun is a test of Bitcoin's soul. It reveals who truly believes in sovereignty and who was just along for the ride, basically. So it's all a plutonic process. The ones who survive with integrity will rise to extraordinary wisdom, influence, and wealth. This is not a time to be fearful. It's a time to evolve. So please take it as such. Like, it's really a time to strengthen your understanding of why Bitcoin was created, the problems it came to solve, and what it came here to disrupt, and really align your perspective with that rather than other narratives that go on in the space. And that takes us into our new moon on the 24th. So I will see you back then. Until then, peace, love, and Bitcoin.